It is Friday, November 24th, 2023. This is another edition of Football Today. You know that dude, Bobby Skinner from Talking Giants. I am Chris Rose, producer Mikey along for the ride as well. Hope you had a nice, happy Thanksgiving. Was it filled with family and football and fun?
Oh, it was a great time. Spent some time with family, then friends, football in the middle, and I am the 2023 Thanksgiving Baixa champion. We had a good time.
The what champion?
Baixa, it's a Portuguese card game.
Oh, okay.
Português.
Is this a big deal?
I made it a big deal because I won.
Okay, good. Is this a first time for you?
The first time I've won, yes.
Okay. So you carry this for a full year, or do we do this like every
We've got
holiday?
a picture of the scoreboard on a napkin. It's a big deal.
Okay. All right.
Well, we were
nice.
talking about getting stuff for my backdrop. Maybe I'll put that napkin in the backdrop.
Not maybe. That's not a maybe. That is an absolutely you will. So
How was yours?
Good. I just went up to Michelle's parents, but we had a nice time. It was, however, the first time that our oldest son did not make it home. He had to work. So had to go through those emotions.
How is that as a feeling as a parent? Because my first time was in Minnesota, and I just spent it with some teammates at their house, and I'm sure it like killed my mom that I wasn't there. I'm the oldest too, so.
Yeah, well, we FaceTimed him a bunch, so it felt like, and plus he's coming home this weekend, so that kind of took away a little bit of the angst with it all.
Okay.
But we're very proud of him. You know, he's working hard and doing all that stuff. Like being in this business, I know what it's all about. There's a lot of holidays I've missed, so I get it. And we'll see.
We did Talking Giants 9 a.m. in the morning too, so there's
wow.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's big. That's big. Do you want to start with Jack Del Rio losing his job the day after Thanksgiving, or do you want to start from the Dallas angle? I'll give you choice.
Let's start from the Dallas angle, and then I can get into some passion about how bad of a coach Jack Del Rio has been.
Okay.
What was you have the question, and I want to answer that.
The question was because they continue to just kick butt against weaker competition. I mean, if you're going to play weaker competition throughout the playoffs in January and in the Super Bowl, these dudes are going to be lifting another Lombardi trophy. But there is the question mark: do they need that hallmark victory? Even though they're 8-3, do they?
They do. This is the team, and now they look really good, right? So this is not like, oh, they're not even good type of talk, right? But this is like, hey, we're at this point with the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott that like being just being good or really good is not the expectation. You need to be a contender with the talent that you have on that roster, and they haven't done it yet. Right. And every time when it's come to the playoffs, unless you're playing, the NFC South champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have folded in the playoffs and starting with Dak on that, where, like you said, for me to take them serious in the playoffs, you have to like not just play the Eagles close. Like you gotta beat the Eagles and look pretty good doing it too. Right. I still look at them more as the team that got blown up by the 49ers than this team that's beat up on the Giants and the Commanders.
I think it is fair to say two things. That Dallas is a very, very, very good team. Like easily top quarter, maybe even top 6 in the league. I think it's also fair to say that we do want more, and we're about to get that. Now, it'll start next Thursday with a slumping Seattle team. But after that, it's home against Philly, at Buffalo, at Miami, and home versus Detroit. Those are the type of teams that you would play in January. I'm not so sure about the Seahawks, and we'll talk about them in just a minute. But every other team there is the type of team you would have to beat in January and perhaps even on the road in order to get to where they want to get to, which is at the very least the NFC Championship and ultimately the Super Bowl for this squad. So I don't think that it's either or with them. You said it right at the very beginning that Dallas is so polarizing. People either feel like they're the greatest and they get shafted by a bunch of the critics, or people feel like we talk too much about Dallas. I think they're exactly where they are with the possibility of moving up a few steps on the NFL hierarchy.
Yeah, and again, there's really not much this next 5-game stretch they can do for it, but there's really not much like they can do in these types of games to change my opinion on anything, right? Like, yes, do I think Dak is a really good quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely, right? The question for me is, what do you look like when you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, right, in the playoffs, or playing whatever, team that has up to the same talent or has more talent than you in those playoff situations. And that is my questions for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, yeah, you guys are a good team, like you said, like top towards the top of the league, but I don't view them as a Philly or San Francisco either.
And that's okay until they beat one of those teams.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. By the way, the Cowboys are 5-0. They're the first team ever to go 5-0 at home, I should say. First team to go 5-0 at home and win each of those 5 games by at least 20 points. And it is true that the 5 teams that they've beaten are combined 17 and 38. 2 quick things about the Cowboys I want to hit on before we hit on Jack Del Rio. Just give me a yes or no because you still have so many more weeks to go. Is Dak top 3 MVP right now?
Yeah, I do think so, actually. Like, we've talked about the MVP race a decent amount on the show because there's no clear cut. Yeah, I do think he is. You know, we talked about CJ Stroud. Now, I'm still in the Tyreek Hill boat. Like, his numbers would have to drop for me to get off of that. But yeah, he is. I mean, he's been airing it out more than any quarterback in the league for the most part, or at least airing it out successfully while also taking all the other parts of the field, like spreading it around very well. So yeah, he is. Or Deron Bland. You know, I had a quote on this show, Rose, when Diggs went down, right? And I was talking about how important he is. And I was like, will they still be a good defense without Diggs? Yes. But what Diggs does is he creates turnovers and he helps the offense score points. And I remember like looking at the depth chart from my notes that morning. I was like, is Deron Bland going to do that? I don't think so. And now he has the record for pick sixes in the season. Nuts.
Do you think that he is the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year because of it?
I think Myles Garrett's probably the front runner for it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
In part because when you go into your meetings and you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, the first guy you circle is not 26, it's 11.
Yep, absolutely.
And to me, you can't be the Defensive Player of the Year if you're not even the best defensive player on your team. And that's not a shot at Deron Bland. That's how much I think of Micah Parsons.
Yeah, no one moves like him in the NFL.
Games. And people are saying, well, hold on, this guy has more touchdowns than Devontae Adams and a whole list of guys who are supposed to be touchdown scorers. I understand all that. I get it. And I think his PFF numbers are actually pretty good, if I'm not mistaken, just in terms of coverage and ranked cornerback and all that sort of stuff. But just because the guy set a record doesn't mean you automatically give it to him. Eric Allen was the last guy to get 4 pick sixes in a season in 1993. Do you know where he finished in Defensive Player of the Year voting?
I'm just going to say 7th and hope I get it right.
You are so damn close. 8th.
Damn.
8th. You know who won it that year?
What year did you say? 1994?
3.
1993. Lawrence Taylor wasn't winning them at that point.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good name. Hall of Famer. And a defensive back.
I don't know.
Rod Woodson.
I was going to... Rod Woodson is what came to my mind, but I was like, did he enter the league like a year or 2 after? And anyways, I screwed that up. You know who I always get mixed up with is Rod Woodson and Charles Woodson, but the reason being they have the same last name if you didn't put that 2 and 2 together, Rose.
Both Canton guys and both Big Ten guys.
Yeah.
Rod went to Purdue and Charles went to the school up north. So there you go. Very quickly, Jack Del Rio, scapegoat here or fair firing?
No, I think Rivera needs to go at this point too. It's time. But Jack Del Rio has coached the worst. It's the worst coach unit, defensive unit I've seen in a long time. Like the only one that I think can come close to it is like that 2020. Since I've been covering the game, is that 2020 Seattle Seahawks defense, where they just they have no identity. They try and show stuff and just play totally like they are just undisciplined, right? It's one thing to be untalented, but undisciplined. Like even when they had that front 4, they were playing very badly. But it's like, hey, they have this front 4. They can at least do some stuff on defense. Then you get rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They were flat out garbage. The Giants played games with them with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. I'm telling you, like, just we had the take. Like we don't really talk about the other team much. Like, conversations on the Talking Giants podcast were like, they need to fire Jack Del Rio as bad as a defensive coordinator as he is. So scapegoat, you could call it that too, but it's 100% deserved. But it's also Rivera, like, trying to at least get a chance of saving his job for the end of the season. Yeah,
which I don't see any scenario playing out where he saves his job. I just think he knows that it's happening. And, Jack Del Rio has done a terrible job with that unit to give up 45 points and then I mean, I think they're the worst in the league in terms of points allowed per game and the amount of regression with really good players. That's been alarming. Woo.
Yeah, and you get like even Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, who are
That's
both
what I'm
awesome
saying.
players. Like you said, they're not playing anywhere near the level that
Nowhere.
I've watched those guys twice a year in depth, and they are like terrorizing. This year, they were just dudes that we were facing.
And Jonathan Allen, remember we played that soundbite a month ago or so, where he kept saying he was sick of the same old shit for 7 straight years. I think this is part of what he was talking about, but we could be wrong. All right. What about the Niners? They end up going up to Seattle, let them back in the game kind of early in the third with the pick 6, but it was not close. It never felt super close. Is San Francisco now back on par with Philadelphia?
I still think they're above Philadelphia, right? Like, and this is why, like I said, this I've never been worried less about a team with a 3-game losing streak than the San Francisco 49ers. They've come back from the bye week, beat a team that's pretty good with the pretty good Jags team and dominated them. They dominated the Seahawks. Again, but they should dominate the Seahawks, but the Seahawks are still a playoff team. Yeah. Like Purdy had to work through some things, right? But again, he was still making plays. Like the conversation around Purdy and those losses to me was insanity. I thought he was making some of the best throws he's made in those situations. He just kind of got baited into the same throw a couple of times. But Purdy's good. They have all those players back and healthy. They to me they are my Super Bowl favorite. They have been before the season. I'm not wavering off it at all. I have utmost confidence in that team.
Cannot wait for next Sunday. That's all I'm saying. In Philadelphia, 9 days from now, that is going to be awesome to see. Now, it still might end up where San Francisco wins that game and they end up not getting the 1 seed. Although Philly's got a couple of interesting ones this weekend. They play host to Buffalo. That won't be easy. They still have to go to Dallas for a Sunday night affair. That's not going to be easy. San Francisco's schedule the rest of the way, I believe, is not really difficult. And by the way, the gap between San Francisco and the rest of that division is like a Grand Canyon size hole. It is just immense. You've got a couple of teams that I think Seattle is really going to have to take a look at their organization after this year. I think they're going to scramble to just make the playoffs. Have you seen what their upcoming schedule is the next few weeks?
It's brutal. I think we looked at it earlier, on like one of the previous shows.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And they're a talented team, man, but they're just not like, I don't know. It's tough to see what I feel like once you kind of figure out what they like to do, it's easy to figure out. Hey, third down, if you run man coverage, they're going to go to DK. So have extra attention on DK, right? Like they're kind of easy to figure out. And I know everyone loves Kenny Walker. I don't like him very much. I think he's just a guy who gets, I know he didn't play yesterday, but it's just like their run game in general is not as good as it's thought about because they have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So I think they're a good team. Playoffs may be tough because of the schedule they have, but I still think they make it. But I'm not like they're like, okay, we talked about Dallas. I don't think they're near Dallas's range, which was a conversation before the season.
No, and you'll see that next Thursday when those two teams play. Just a little bit more about San Francisco. They looked so confident. I don't know if you saw the turkey festival they had with Melissa Stark in the post game, but there were like 8 or 9 dudes. It started out with like 5, and then guys just kept sprinkling in. Like here came Nick Bosa, and here comes Fred Warner, and they just seem like it's such ease with who they are and what they're about. There's no anxiety with that club. They have stars on every level of their team.
Not just stars, all pros on every level of the team, right? And then they go and add Chase Young at the deadline. Like they have defensive tackle stars and depth. I mean, they are a team that is just built to dominate, right? And Purdy is the guy to help them get there.
I would be shocked if it's not San Francisco or Philadelphia playing in Las Vegas in the middle of February.
Oh, I'd bet everything that it's one of those two, unless one of the quarterbacks goes down. Like to me, it's a two horse race for the NFC.
That's it. Whereas in the AFC, we were like,
I can make an argument for like any team in the AFC.
Yeah, almost. All All right, so Turkey Day got started with the Packers upsetting the Detroit Lions. So what was the bigger story? That Green Bay has slowly worked its way back into possible playoff contention, or for the second straight week, Detroit dug itself a huge hole. It was able to bounce back out of it last week against Chicago, but not this time against Green Bay.
I think it's more about the Packers. I mean, the Lions had their third loss of the season, right? Like divisional game, that stuff happens. I think it's less even about the Packers making the playoffs, but more so about like Jordan Love's development, right? Like he's looked pretty good the last few weeks after the beginning of the season. Like you looked at his numbers and they are good, but if you watch the games, it's like they're making everything easy and he's still having like a lot of missed throws. These last few weeks, he's been like catching my attention and making some plays, and that could be huge for them, right? And I feel like because is this year 3 or 4 for Love? I think 4. It's year 4, right? Yeah. It's you kind of do have to give him like a little bit of rookie grace, even though he's had so much time to develop. Because you even remember Rodgers, who was in a similar situation. His first year was solid, but it wasn't like all world. And that was a team that went to the NFC Championship and missed the playoffs that year with Rodgers. So I'm excited to see Love's development more so than just them like sneaking into the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's more than that. And I agree with you. I thought the biggest takeaway for me in that game was Jordan Love, because in his last 2 games against the Chargers and now the Lions, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Last week he threw for 300 yards. This time I don't think he got quite to 300 yards, but he looked really, really good and had a lot of confidence from that first play on where he threw it all the way down to Christian Watson, gave him a 50-50 ball, and he made a great play on it. It's not just Jordan Love. I don't ever, Bobby, remember a team having this many young skill guys at the same time. Like, who is the veteran they're leaning on to get? Is there anybody in their receiving core that's a veteran?
No, I mean it's Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is like he was like a college vet, so I guess he kind of fits into that role. And I like Jaden Reed. He's someone I've pinned as
too.
Someone who's always going to have like 600. He's going to perpetually have 650 yards every year of his career. Well, that was the thing with the Packers. It's like, hey, let's see these receivers grow under Aaron Rodgers, right? Like for me, Romeo Doubs is like, yeah, this is going to be the next random dude the Packers turn into 1,000-yard receiver. So they've taken some time, but yeah, they don't have. I mean, I guess for the offense, it's Bakhtiari who's always hurt, and Aaron Jones is as the vets of that team. And he's hurt. He's been hurt a lot this year too. He missed yesterday.
Right. Their backfield is fine. It's Aaron Jones and it's A.J. Dillon. Those are 2 veterans that you can count on. But once again, who is the veteran receiver in the locker room who can help young guys when they're struggling to get open? Little tricks of the trade. Heck, even their top 2 tight ends are rookies.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yeah. I was going to say they have 2 rookies. I actually mentioned this. Who is the oldest receiver on the Packers?
In terms of years?
Dontavian Wicks. He's a rookie.
Right.
Samori Torre, Bo Melton, who came out a couple years ago. Malik Heath. Who the hell is Malik Heath?
He played yesterday. He played yesterday for the first. He had caught 1 pass before yesterday, I think.
Yeah, and he had 4 yesterday, I believe, right?
Yeah. He took Randall Cobb's old number. I was like, when did they bring back Randall Cobb? And there he is. There he is. No, I think it's great. They're going to have a shot at this. I think if you look at their schedule, I know that they play Kansas City in their next game. I think it is at home at Lambeau, so maybe that'll help. Who knows? I don't expect them to win that. But even if they fall to 5-7, now listen, they are big-time Bears fans this coming Monday night. But you could definitely see a Green Bay Packer trending up where either Minnesota or Seattle starts falling down. That's what I could see happening over the last 6 weeks of the year. Definitely.
Yeah, it's. I don't want Seattle to miss the playoffs, right? Because I feel like they are one of the NFC playoff teams. But like you said, that schedule is so tough.
I don't care because whoever it is going to be playing most likely San Francisco or Philly in that first round. If you're the 7 seed, I'll see you next year anyway.
That's true. Hey, Jordan Love, last year, what was the one game he played? Eagles, almost won that game. So maybe we get a Packers-Eagles rematch from last year.
By the way, Dan Campbell, because I do want to focus on the Lions just a smidge, he said, we got outplayed, but I'm not panicked, which is true. The one area where we have to keep our eyes open here is Jared Goff. This is consecutive weeks where he's had turnoveritis. Last week, he got picked off 3 times by the Bears. Thanksgiving Day, first time he fumbled 3 times in a game. So if that's going to be a problem moving forward, that's a no-no come mid-January. That is a game changer like that.
Fumbles are a little more random with QBs to me. So like yesterday's game isn't like alarming with the fumbles, but if he's kind of like he almost had this streak for pass without an interception, and then he's thrown a handful. So he's obviously got to keep that in check. But with their offensive line, I don't stress too much about the fumbles. But it was insane yesterday where it's like, oh my God, he fumbled again.
Right.
Camera on me. The weather might be cooling down, but the action on the field stays hot. Fuego. And today we've teamed up with DraftKings, an official partner of the NFL, to get you closer to the action. Right now, new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings app now and use promo code FOOTBALLTODAY. Fan of multiple teams and want to bet on them all? Well, you're in luck. Combine multiple bets together for a shot at an even bigger payout. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, not to worry. You can still join in all the fun with DraftKings daily fantasy sports. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code Football today. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code Football today. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You'll be glad you did.
All right. Who circled this one at the beginning of the year? A fight for first in the AFC South. But do you really think that Houston can hang with Jacksonville, not just this weekend, but for the rest of the season?
I mean, they beat them, right? So, like, I absolutely think they can go with them, right? And I think the Jags, despite looking good as like it's an EPA team, I think they have their flaws. And offensively, like I don't know why Calvin Ridley was that as hyped up as him. I guess it's the distance makes the heart grow fonder. But I was like, do we remember him in Atlanta? Like, good receiver, like actively quit on plays there. And again, wasn't like a top 10 type of guy. So yeah, Jaguars are obviously more talented, but you got CJ Stroud, Tank Dell. I mean, what they're doing right now is kind of nuts. Yeah, I absolutely think Houston is in run for this, and I'm picking them to win this game.
To me, I know we focus a lot on the quarterbacks, but you know what, Trevor Lawrence? Like, let's show it. We looked at that division this year and we were like, man, the Jags might win this by 5 games. With everybody else having quarterback question marks going into the year, right? You had rookies in Houston and Indy, and we had no freaking idea what the Titans were doing down there in Tennessee. And based on what Jacksonville did last year with a comeback playoff win and then hanging in there against Kansas City, we were like, okay, this is it. Well, this year they played well. Like, they've won 6 of their last 7 games, but they just feel like they're kind of hanging out. Like, I don't feel like when you talk Super Bowl that they feel like a big part of the discussion in the AFC, even though you feel like they should be. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's like when we had a topic like a couple weeks ago when they were 6-2, and it's like, which AFC team at 6-2 is going to take a step forward? I'm like, the Jags are 6-2 at the top of the for the conference. Yeah, I don't view them as I think they're a team that still has a lot of flaws, which again is kind of part of the timeline. They're a couple of years removed from the first overall pick and being pretty devoid of talent. But and what happened with the 49ers leaves like okay, you're not even close type of taste in your mouth.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, and it's why I started talking a little bit about the quarterback situation. Like, Trevor Lawrence, you were the dude. Like, we've had a lot of drafts lately where you could have made an argument for that guy over that guy. I mean, even last year, right? I mean, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Do you go Anthony Richardson with a lottery ticket? Like, what do you do? In 2021, it was Trevor Lawrence, and there was no question about it. And he's played well.
I think he's played better than the numbers, but he hasn't.
Yes.
Like, he hasn't shown like he hasn't looked like anything like Justin Herbert or any of those guys to me, which again, Justin Herbert kind of falls in the category of like how the conversation around him is a little off base. But like Lawrence still has some steps to go to get to those guys' level.
You know what? He reminds me a little bit. I know I'm mixing my sports here, but work with me. Tim Duncan was so great but like I don't remember one thing he ever did.
That bank shot, baby.
Okay,
I'm a
I
Nets
know, but
fan,
I'm
so I
saying,
remember lots of what Tim Duncan did. He ruined
but
my
do you remember
2003
a
summer.
particular shot? I remember yes, but what was his moment? I mean, he had one against the Lakers where I think Derek Fisher then won the game with the next shot in
Best
the play.
best NBA finish of all time, by the way, is that game.
Right, and it's great. But what I'm saying is it like, do you ever remember a Trevor Lawrence throw? So I guess maybe Tim Duncan isn't great because you're shooting down my theory. Thanks.
Well, I'm
But
a Nets fan who watched the Spurs go on a 19-0 run in Game 6 of the 2000 NBA Finals and ruined my Father's Day. So I'm the bad person to ask about that one. And they almost stole Jason Kidd in free agency. Like, fuck you, San Antonio. But yeah, no. But at the same time, he's still like in the halfway through year 3. Now, quarterbacks hit so quickly that it's like we're expecting at this point. But he's looked really good. I think he's looked better than the numbers. But like I said, I don't view him on like the Herbert level.
so I guess my point is this: finally, even though it's taken me miles to get there because you keep shooting down my theories, is that this Sunday gives him a great opportunity to say, you know what, CJ Stroud, you've had an amazing year. You're going to be the offensive rookie of the year. You guys have had a fantastic season that nobody, how many games did we think at the beginning of the year Houston would have to play in order for him to get 6 wins? 25, right? They've done it so far in 10. It's been amazing. But this is his chance to kind of put his stamp on this game and this division right here.
And he should. Like, they have more talent than the Houston Texans. Like, this is, like you said, this is a game for them to put their mark. Like, hey, we may not be at the top of the league, but we sure as hell ain't letting the Texans beat us in this division.
All right, let's move from the AFC South to the AFC North. You got Pittsburgh and Cincinnati squaring off for the first time this season. So are you more curious to see what the Steelers' offense looks like without Matt Canada, or if Jake Browning can replace another JB and Joe Burrow and have a little bit of magic left in Cincinnati's season?
Well, the Bengals are dead to me without Joe Burrow. So it's just like at this point, what they don't mean, they are as relevant to me as the Washington Commanders without Joe Burrow.
Whoa.
Well, I'm just saying they're without Joe Burrow, they're not a relevant team for the end of the NFL season. Do you think they are? Do you think they have like some fight left in them with Jake Browning at quarterback?
I will be very curious. I was at Jake Browning's last start that meant something, the 2019 Rose Bowl. I can't believe it. I looked it up the other day. I was like, when was the last time he actually started a meaningful game? And sure enough, there it was. And I saw it in person. The guy started 54 games in college. He wasn't a nobody. So I am curious to see, can he put together a little bit of that Brock Purdy magic? The problem is he just hasn't played.
Here's the thing is, like, I like Brock Purdy. I think he's like top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I think if you put him on this Cincinnati Bengals offense, there would be, I mean, they are the most QB reliant offense in the NFL, right? Like, and you saw in the beginning of the year when he was dealing with the injury, like they were the worst offense in the NFL. And then as he got healthy, all of a sudden they're a good offense again. They have all the receivers and shit, but they live and die with Joe Burrow. I don't think there's any more team that is like less suited to lose their quarterback than the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's fair. So what were you going to say, that you're more interested to see if Pittsburgh has a midseason change?
Yeah, I want to see if they can get to like even like a slightly below average. Like, can they be the 19th best offense in the NFL? Because if then, like, they're a defense that can win a playoff. Like, if they can be like that type of offense, and they have talent to do it, right? Like, they have some offensive line issues, but they're not the worst offensive line in the NFL. You got some good receiver talent. The back situation we've chronicled is very weird. How Warren is playing much better than Najee, but they have talent to be like a halfway decent offense in the NFL. Can they look like that? Because then they're a team that I think is going to make the playoffs. I'd be shocked if they don't, and could win a playoff game.
The question I've got is, obviously they have figured out their system, but they're saying that quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan and running backs coach Eddie Faulkner are going to be sharing the reins. I don't know what that means when it comes to play calling.
Well, I think probably Mike Sullivan would be it. This is a weird thing where because they don't have to name someone as that title, they don't. Like I remember when Joe Judge fired Jason Garrett, they're like, yeah, we don't know who's going to be the offensive coordinator. It's like everyone knows that it's Freddie Kitchens. I would assume that the quarterback's coach is the calling the plays, but I don't know. I guess I should have looked that up beforehand.
Well, I mean, there wasn't any definitive answer, certainly not one that I could find. I imagine that Mike Tomlin has figured that out inside his building. This is big time now on Kenny Pickett. I know it's just year 2. I get all that. But man, maybe they can unlock something that he does extremely well, because if I ask you the question, what does Kenny Pickett do best? The answer is what?
Throw to the sidelines, I guess. But that's kind of what they're. He can throw a good ball from a clean pocket into some contested situations, I guess.
Really? That sounded like the most generic answer.
Yeah, I don't like Kenny Pickett. I don't like Kenny Pickett is basically what I'm saying. Like he's not the quarterback who you look at and like, man, this is what he does really well. I guess overall he's pretty accurate with the ball would be my thing. But even then, you see him have his misses here and there.
You know what the best thing he does? He doesn't turn it over. That's the best thing he does. He is the ultimate game manager to keep your team in a game. They're always in a game. Boy, that's exciting.
Mike Sullivan, former Giants offensive coordinator. I'm excited to see him get his second chance in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. I still think the Bengals have a little something in them. Plus, they had kind of the mini bye to take a deep breath and realize Joe Burrow's not going to be there. It wouldn't shock me if the Bengals come out quickly in this one. Just wouldn't. Just saying.
I would start the Steelers defense in fantasy this week. So I'm on the opposite spectrum than you.
Okay. Monday we will settle this, and one of us will be apologizing to the other.
Hey, I will literally start the. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm not going to get in my hands and knees saying sorry to you on this podcast. But
no, absolutely not.
I'm going to be in Jersey for it though, so maybe I'll have a little more Jersey fight for you.
Hold on, are you going to the Giants-Patriots game?
You think I would miss the return of Joe Judge for anything?
Oh my goodness! Are you going to get a picture with Joe Judge in the background?
No, probably not. Actually, yeah, I haven't got my tickets yet, so we'll see. Now, Joe Judge is a fan of mine. The judges are, so I would like to do it. So maybe I'll try and work some of my connects and get a hello with him and how you've been doing. But
all right,
the judges are fans of Bobby Skinner.
Who's third person? Who's starting a quarterback for the Patriots? Because Bill won't.
It's Mac Jones. I was talking with some of the Patriots people this week, and everything points to it, even though it's not been official. It's Mac Jones.
Is there any part of you, because the Patriots they hold the 3rd pick, the Giants hold the 5th pick right now, I believe. Is there any part of you that wants the Giants to lose?
I mean, this is kind of a must-lose game for the draft if you're in for one of the top 2 quarterbacks. So, yeah. Here's the issue. Here's the only reason that's stopping me is I am undefeated in Giants games that I've attended.
Right.
And that is what's like, well, I kind of want to keep that alive for the future.
Technically, you're not undefeated. You just haven't
I've never lost. Yeah, never lost.
You have a tie.
Yeah, never lost.
Okay. All right. Well, I wish you luck. Travel safely. Have fun. Say hi to Joe Judge. Get a picture. Snap a photo. Put it out on social. Can't wait. This will be fun. All right.
I'm excited for it.
Should be. All right. Fun show. A lot of stuff going on. This is like a chock full Friday. And we'll be back at it again on Monday. We cannot wait for that as well. So for producer Mikey, shout out to him. He always does a great job. And the president of the Joe Judge fan club, or maybe it's the other way. President of the Bobby Skinner.
Joe Judge is the president of the Bobby Skinner fan club.
Right. My fault. Bobby Skinner from Talking Giants. I'm Chris Rose. We will see you Monday on Football Today.